Hi everyone, welcome back to DFTW, Difference Frames the World, a channel to see the world from a different angle. Today, we want to review the deadly explosion in North China from a slightly higher altitude, before the smoke clears. There are only 4 weeks before the Chinese celebrate the 2026 Spring Festival, and everyone is preparing for a long-awaited repose, except the families affected by the explosion. In China, the end of the lunar year is the most dangerous time of the year, and many mishaps happen. Cold weather, rushed production targets, tired workers, and leaders eager to close the books nicely all cause disastrous incidents. The end of the lunar year 2025 is not an exception. At around 3 on the afternoon of January 18, 2026, an explosion tore through the plate plant of Baotou Steel Group in Inner Mongolia. The sound was so loud that residents thought an earthquake had struck. Reports say the blast was heard up to 40 kilometers away. Windows shattered across nearby villages. Inside the plant, buildings were not damaged, but they were effectively flattened. Steel structures twisted, equipment was thrown hundreds of meters, and debris was scattered like on a battlefield. Some witnesses described it as looking less like an industrial accident and more like a scene from a modern war zone. Early online fragments suggested a boiler explosion. One massive metal cover was reportedly blown clear off and landed on a nearby residential house. Fortunately, no one was home. Otherwise, it would have been a literal case of disaster falling from the sky. After the blast, a towering mushroom cloud rose into the air. Dust and smoke blocked the sun. For more than 10 minutes, the sky reportedly turned pitch black. Then came the smell: gas, chemicals, burnt metal, the kind of smell that tells you immediately, this is not a small incident. Rescue teams arrived, firefighters, emergency crews, and medical staff. Temperatures were below -20 degrees Celsius, steel and concrete lay everywhere, and fears of secondary explosions slowed operations. Then came the officials. Regional leaders rushed to the scene, officially to direct rescue work, but in reality, as always, to assess 2 things first. First, how bad is it really? Second, how much of it can be safely said out loud? Netizens have long accused local governments of hiding the true number of casualties in major incidents to prevent local officials from being punished. Before any detailed reports come out, we can only believe the data released by the official media outlets. Soon after, a press release appeared. Initial figures were modest. Later updates raised the toll to 9 dead, 84 injured, and 1 missing. Notice the rhythm here. The faster the officials arrive, the faster the numbers stabilize. What was not emphasized was that this plate plant, part of Baotou Steel Group, had accumulated dozens of safety incidents over the past decade, with repeated warnings from regulators, fines for unaddressed hazards, aging equipment, and long overdue production lines still operating at full load. But none of that made it into the on-site speeches about preventing secondary disasters. The plate plant's parent company, Baotou Steel Group, is not just any factory, it is huge and carries significant economic and even political weight. That matters because Baotou Steel is not some small local mill. Baotou is the heart of China's rare earth empire. The city sits next to the Bayan Obo mining district, the largest rare earth mine on Earth. From here, lanthanum, cerium, neodymium and praseodymium, as well as other elements, are blended into rare earth alloy steel, used in high-speed rail, shipbuilding, aerospace, advanced manufacturing and military equipment. Baotou Steel Group is not only a steel producer. It is a strategic supplier within China's carefully guarded rare earth supply chain. Just days before the explosion, rare earth output and export restrictions were being discussed as a geopolitical bargaining chip. Internally, China dominates rare earths at the state level. Over the decades, Beijing centralized mining licenses, consolidated producers under state control, restricted foreign access to processing technology, selectively enforced environmental regulations, and introduced export controls when leverage was needed. Externally, China controls the majority of global rare earth processing, an overwhelming share of rare earth magnets, and nearly all high-end refining capacity. Rare earths are classified as strategic resources, meaning exports are licensed, monitored, and increasingly politicized. That is why accidents like this matter far beyond Baotou. It affects the world psychologically. Right now, the damaged production lines are shut down. Rare earth steel plate output is delayed. Downstream manufacturers face delivery disruptions. Will the global rare earth supply collapse tomorrow? No. It will not. But this explosion exposes three uncomfortable truths. First, China's rare earth dominance rests on aging industrial infrastructure, operated under intense pressure to meet quotas. Second, safety enforcement often exists on paper, while real risks are managed through silence, connections, and temporary fixes. Third, when a single hub like Baotou sneezes, the entire global supply chain catches a cold, especially industries dependent on just-in-time delivery. For countries trying to diversify away from Chinese rare earths, this incident is not reassuring. For those still dependent, it's a reminder: supply security is fragile. And this is not an isolated case. We've seen fireworks destruction that burned villages, chemical plant explosions that left residents crying in the streets, mine collapses that were never fully explained, and interns dying during training in dangerous facilities. Official data shows that nearly 20,000 production safety accidents occurred nationwide in just 1 year. Yet somehow, almost none qualify as particularly major. Because words are adjusted. Definitions are flexible. And accountability is optional. So here's the real issue. When profits, political performance, and strategic leverage matter more than human lives, accidents are not accidents, they are inevitable outcomes. Rare earths are strategic. Steel is strategic. Exports are strategic. But apparently, workers are not. This explosion didn't just blow up a plant. It blew a hole in the illusion of control. And as always, the people closest to the blast will pay the price, but the system moves on, issuing statements, adjusting numbers, and promising investigations we've all seen before. China is advancing rapidly. It is a good thing, but when it moves too quickly, it might become a nightmare. We hope this explosion serves as a wake-up call for regulators, so they can better prioritize the well-being of ordinary working people and prevent such incidents from happening again. China's high-stakes operations should slow down, not for ideology, not for foreign pressure, but for basic safety and long-term security. Right now, the country's development model is simple. Run machines longer, push workers harder, stretch aging equipment further, and hope nothing happens before the next inspection or leadership reshuffle. But reality keeps interrupting that plan. Explosions, collapses, chemical leaks, fires, these are not black swan events. They are systemic stress fractures in an industrial model that prioritizes output numbers over risk management. Slowing down production does not mean deindustrialization. It means giving equipment time for real maintenance, not cosmetic repairs, allowing safety inspections to function without bribery or performance pressure, and reducing fatigue in frontline workers who operate high-risk systems. Preventing single-point failures in strategic sectors like steel, chemicals, energy, and rare earths, from a national security perspective, matters even more. China's strategic industries, such as rare earths, steel, chemicals, and power generation, are foundations, not sprint races. A system that collapses internally under its own speed is far more dangerous than one that grows slightly slower but remains stable. What's the point of dominating a supply chain if a single accident can shut down a hub, kill workers, disrupt logistics, and expose institutional weaknesses to the entire world? True strength is not maximum speed. It's controlled speed. Slowing down today prevents disasters tomorrow. And preventing disasters is cheaper, economically, politically, and morally, than explaining them afterward. That's not anti-development. That's basic governance.